Hi friends, it's Russ again, and we're back here in the Daisy Workshop having more Daisy lever gun fun. If you remember from our last video, I had a Model 111B that was really in bad shape. Well, to show you what the gun should look like in the same era, this is one I pulled out of my collection. This is a 111B that has not been worked on. This is the original state of the gun. If you remember from the last video, some of the things that were wrong with the gun that I said needed a lot of work or needed to be retired, this is what it should have looked like. It should have looked like this gun and had the muzzle plug in the front with the ramp sight. The loading gate was missing. This has the loading gate on it here, and you can see the shot tube inside. This still has most of the original paint on it, so it's in pretty good shape. This part was on the old gun, and it only had 2 screws that were original Daisy screws. There was something odd about the one in the back, and this one was replaced with something from the hardware store. Also, there was no lever. This is the plastic lever. The trigger assembly was pretty much all there, except there was a big break in it down here where it's supposed to, let me cock this back, where it's supposed to be together. And for that reason, the crossbolt safety wasn't working. It wouldn't hold its position. So the stock was this. It was an old wooden stock. I don't know where it came from because I don't believe it was original to the gun. And it was broken in several places, had a nail holding things together. So I don't know what that came off of, which model exactly it came from. The stock it's supposed to have would have this embossed checkering here. And on the back, if you can see this, it has ridges on the butt plate and fake screws cast into the plastic just for effect. This is pretty much what the gun should look like, and even after all this time, this one isn't in bad shape at all. Not really in bad shape at all. The nuts are missing and so forth, but that's okay. You can still read on top where it says Model 111B. So this is an example of what a 111B might look like after so many years of being used and abused, but kept in good condition. This gun also, I don't know if you could tell from whenever I cocked it. Let me just fire. It's empty, so just release the spring. There's no ratchet assembly. It does not have the anti-bear trap, as you can see there, because the trigger assembly does not have one of these. So I got a bug in my bonnet here to be able to do some work on the original gun in that bad condition and see what I could do to repair it or at least get it back in service. Now I'm not considered any type of restorative genius. I consider myself more of a mechanic, more of a repairman. I will make parts, I will repair parts, I will create lookalikes and so forth, if that's what it's called for. If not, I customize, just to get some of these guns back in production. So one of the things I did was I scoured up a straight cocking lever, the polypropylene type that is on the original guns. And I found in my box of stocks and parts this Daisy stock. Now, it's not exactly the same color as the other one, and I'm not sure if it came off of a 111B that was destroyed or not, but it wasn't in too bad a condition. It did have issues. A lot of what Daisy used in the beginning on their plastics caused warpage and this has its share. Also, the front nose that hides inside of the receiver was broken off, so I had to rebuild that and made sure I had a good mounting hole with the proper threads in it. There are a lot of scratches and some uneven marks and nicks and holes, and so I did do a little sanding on it and then put a clear coat over it to help protect it and give it a wear surface. The butt plate was missing, and I don't know if that was due to the fact that it had been warped or whether somebody just abused it and popped it apart. So I made a false butt plate out of wood, inset it, put 2 screws in here for effect. They don't do anything more than the plastic screws on the other stock did, but it looks okay. And I painted it black because it looks more like a butt plate that way. So this is a usable stock, far from perfect, but it's still in the same genre as the stocks on the 111s should have been. So we have this. Another problem was this is the original trigger assembly. I had trouble. I couldn't get it to cock properly. It, as you can see, broke apart here. This is the crossbolt safety, which was not holding tightly in place, so that fell out. It does have a spring if I ever wanted to replace one on another one. But this is what one of those crossbolt safeties assemblies is like in the trigger, with a separate here, let me see if I can get that back. And it's pretty tight, and it does get down, but not real well. Okay. If you were going to make one of these assemblies, they're not currently available through Daisy. What is available is the modern style, but there are a lot of things with this which will keep it from working in a gun that was designed not to have it, a gun like this. So what you would do with something like this, if you wanted to make it work, which is what I did for the gun that we put back together, is I cut off this ratchet, which is the anti-bear trap mechanism. Also took this spring off of here, and what I ended up with was something that looks similar to this. But because of the width of it, if you notice, nothing sticks out of the sides on this. You see, this is the original. This is the one we used, and it was similar to the one we used. So we cut that ratchet assembly off, took the spring off, and ground down everything that stuck out on the side until it was flush. Also, on the nose of this, where it sits down below the plunger assembly, we had to cut off, or grind down actually, that little bar that sticks out on the side. And you can see that right here. So we cut that down also. Underneath, and this might be a little bit more difficult to see, where this notch is, the piece in the front has a bar on it, and we had to cut that down also, because on the original, it sits like this. It sits below, and it won't fit down inside. Now, what's the difference in there? If you take apart one of the guns that uses either the old-fashioned single trigger assembly or one of these without the anti-bear trap safety, they look like this inside, where they have a double flange sitting inside the receiver. If it has that, then this would get in the way of using a modern trigger assembly with the anti-bear trap. So you have to make some adjustments. You can use one of the new trigger assemblies, but you have to modify it quite a bit. So that's what we did. That's what we did. And what happened to the receiver? Well, if you recall, this is the receiver. I was able to install a new, or actually it's a used, loading gate. inside of here, that looks a lot shinier, and there's not a lot of crust and rustiness inside. I took this whole thing apart, moved everything, the abutment and the shot tube and everything straight out the back. And what I noticed was what I suspected from the start. That black tape that was wrapped around here was hiding a very, very bent up and rusty muzzle. So I was able to hammer that out pretty well and get it in place. Stripped all of the remaining rust and paint off of it and gave it a coating of satin black finish. The trigger assembly that I modified went back in over here. Now it's working. I was able to source some regular daisy screws. I always keep some of those handy. Had to do a little bit of hammering and pounding, but you can see the roll stamping pretty well on here where it says Model 111B. So this is a similar type. What I'd like to do is, while we're rolling on camera here, we're going to start to put together the finishing touches on this gun. So we're going to take the muzzle plug that has the ramp sight, try to fit that in there and get it to seat properly. Get my little guide here, stick it inside, make sure that it lines up. There we go. Okay, pop that in place, let it detent in there, and that's not too bad. That's not too bad. On the back, we're going to take our stock and, using an appropriate screw made by Daisy, put it in here. Should be able to tighten that in there pretty well, easily. Okay. You see we still have a spot, so we're going to take one of these, which I got out of another set of Daisy kits. Get it started. For expediency here, I'm just going to use a power drill. Okay. Get that in place. And this is beat up pretty bad, but the best we could do with it at the time. You can see this is still warped a little, still bent. We still have to put on the caulking lever, which is going to go on just like this. And I know some of you are thinking, but you're not putting any of the star washers on there. Well, you're absolutely correct. I'm not putting the star washers on there. That doesn't mean I don't know that that should have them. It's just that for this particular gun, we're not going to bother with additional parts that I may need to use on a better subject. So we get that on like that. And on the back, we can slide on some real Daisy nuts. Now I know you're all thinking, oh, you purists out there are saying, but you don't use a nut on each one of those screws. Well, you know what? In this particular case, I do. We're going to take my 5/16 wrench, and we're going to snug those just a little. And if you remember, this gun had the original ramp, and we're going to slide it in from this direction here. Okay. Put it on safe. Let's see if she cocks. It does. Safety works. Take safety off. Perfect. So, this gun, which in many cases would have gone probably to the trash heap, now is a usable gun once again. Not the prettiest thing, but then again, it was pretty doggone ugly whenever we started with it, if you remember from the last video. No sense in throwing this one away. Somebody can still have fun with it. And we've made use of some old parts. This old stock took a little bit of repair and modification. I didn't get all the warp out, but you know what? Sometimes you can only do so much. I got the lever from another gun. I think I'm going to have to squeeze this back just a little bit so it grabs that cocking lever properly. We were able to hammer out a lot of the deformed parts of the front end. When I took it apart, I was very pleased to see that the plunger assembly wasn't all that bad. Ripped that all the way down with the aid of some elbow grease, some wire brushing, quarter stick of dynamite. We were able to get the dirt and gunk and rust out of this thing. And on the inside, it wasn't quite as bad as the outside. So that helped us do quite a bit. Well, this is Russ saying, if you get a chance, don't forget to subscribe. Let us know what you're thinking. If you have any other ideas on what to do with one of these guns, please contact us through the subscription. And there you go. And let me know what you think. There it is, folks. Have a good day, and we'll see you next time.